As we mentioned before, the Enter Bills window is only used to enter a bill that will be paid later. In other words, the item is being paid on account. Now remember, if you get a bill and are paying it immediately, you would use the Write Checks window. But right now we're talking about the Enter Bills window. Since the Enter Bills window is being used for entering bills that are going to be paid later, accounts payable will always be increased or credited. Since accounts payable will always be credited with this window, QuickBooks does it for you behind the scenes, as we will see. The QuickBooks user doesn't need to select accounts payable anywhere on here. They don't even need to know what accounts payable is. Remember, QuickBooks is designed for even non-accountants to use. So why enter a bill if we don't plan on paying it now? Well, part of being an accountant is tracking assets, liabilities, owner's equity, revenues, and expenses. If we have bills that are unpaid, these are liabilities, and we need to always know how much our liabilities are. The Enter Bills window lets us track this information, including how much we owe. To find out how much we owe, let's go to the Vendor Center. You can go to the Vendor Center by clicking here, or as the book shows you, Vendor Center. For example, the Vendor Center shows that we owe Galeway Computers $2,600. So it shows you how much we owe in the balance total column. It shows who we owe it to. Here are the associated vendors and the amounts we owe them. And when it is due. Now if you want to easily see when bills are due, you go to the Pay Bills window. Notice these are bills that have already been entered in the Enter Bills window. And over here we have a Date Due column. For example, our Minneapolis Electric and Gas Company bill is due on the 4th of March, and Midwest Mutual Insurance is due on the 11th. So when we are done entering a transaction in the Enter Bills window, if we run a journal report for that day showing that transaction, we will see this type of entry. Now I've switched over to PowerPoint to show you what the transaction looks like in the usual way that we see transactions in our lectures. So when using the Enter Bills window, what's happening is the user is going to choose either an asset or an expense to debit, in other words, to increase. For example, if you're buying a computer, it will be debited. If you're paying your electric bill, that expense will be debited. And then what's going to go on behind the scenes is accounts payable is going to use that same number, and it's going to credit accounts payable. This means that AP, or accounts payable, is the default account for the Enter Bills window. Okay, now we are back into QuickBooks, and I'm going to switch from Chapter 3 to Chapter 2. If I open up a previous company, it was a previous company that I had open. And I'm going to enter the first bill that the chapter tutorial requests that you enter. I'm now going to open up my home page. And one thing you should know is when we use the Enter Bills window, it's going to automatically update several things. It's going to automatically update the Vendor Center. You can get to the Vendor Center by clicking here, or you go Vendors, Vendor Center. It's going to automatically update the journal. And it's going to automatically update the chart of accounts. Notice on the chart of accounts, it has the balance total for all the assets, all the liabilities, and all of the equity accounts. Notice it does not show balances for the income, also known as revenue, or expense accounts. Of course, here are our balance totals. And the last thing that the Enter Bills window is going to update for us is the ledger. I'm going to scroll down. so that accounts payable becomes visible. Notice we have no accounts payable yet, but as soon as I enter our first bill, this number should increase by the amount of the bill. Now I have lots of windows open, so I want to show you something that's very handy in QuickBooks. It's called the Open Windows List. To view it, you go to View, Open Windows List, and now all these windows that I have open, see all of these? They are accessible just by clicking over here. Like if I want to see the general ledger, I click on it over here and it comes to the front. If I want to go back to the home page, I click on it and it comes to the front. It's very handy. Now let's enter this transaction into QuickBooks. Minneapolis Electric and Gas Company sends us a bill. The bill arrives on February 2nd, 2013, has an invoice number of 125-55, is for $350, and has terms of net 30. So let's enter that, and we're going to assume that we're not going to pay the bill right away, so we need to use the Enter Bills window. So we said it was Minneapolis Electric and Gas Company. I'm going to tab to the next field. I could click over here and choose the calendar, but I like the more efficient and quicker way is to tab and then type 02/02/13. I'm going to tab to reference number and watch how the date fills in. We said the reference is 125-55. I'm going to tab to amount due, $350. And we said that the terms were net 30. Terms are chosen here. And what terms of net 30 means is the net amount is due in 30 days. Now what's going to happen is that QuickBooks will automatically adjust the bill due date to be 30 days from the date you enter here. And the last thing we need to enter is we need to tell QuickBooks, well, what is this $350 for? Well, since it's from Minneapolis Electric and Gas, we're going to assign that to the utilities expense account. Now notice I haven't saved this yet. So let me go back to my journal. To get to the journal, I'm going to click here on the Open Windows List. And I want to see all of my transactions for this company. This company is relatively new, so they don't have many. In fact, they only have 2. Now when I click Save on the Enter Bills window, QuickBooks is going to go to the journal and input this transaction for us into the journal. It will also put it into the general ledger. It's going to increase our accounts payable account. It's also going to go to the chart of accounts and increase our accounts payable amount. And it's also going to go to the vendor center, and under Minneapolis Electric and Gas, which it shows that we do not owe any money to them yet, it's going to place a transaction over here and it's going to increase this amount. So let me go back to the Enter Bills, click Save and Close, and look, we now owe Minneapolis Electric and Gas $350. The invoice is over here. Now notice a lot of times this setting here will say something like this fiscal year, and then all your transactions do not show up. So what I recommend you is what I recommend you do if you're trying to find your transactions is make sure this says all, this says all, and this says all, which is at the very top. And there you go. There's our accounts payable. Invoice number 125-55 for $350. It also updates our journal. I've switched to the journal over here now. And then notice it has added this transaction where accounts payable is being credited for $350 and utilities expense is being debited for $350. Now notice sometimes what QuickBooks does is it will put the credit first and then the debit second. Notice on these other transactions it did put the debit first and the credit second. So this is just a formatting issue that QuickBooks has, and we need to get used to that. It also will go to our chart of accounts and update our $350 in accounts payable and it will also update our general ledger. Notice it says refresh needed, so I'll click refresh. And the reason that this transaction is not showing here is because our dates up here are to only 12/30 of 2012. So if I change this to include 02/02/2013 and click tab or click refresh, I go down here and now shows $350 being owed to Minneapolis Electric under the AP account. Another shortcut is if you want to see all the transactions forever for this company in the ledger, click all, and then it blanks these out and includes all the transactions in the history of this company.